Welcome back to RFM. Last time on the GN125 we stripped the whole thing back. Brakes, wheels, electrics, the lot. Everything came apart so we can go through it all properly before anything went back on. If you haven't seen part 1, the link will be in the description. It's well worth watching first. So welcome to part 3 of this mini-series. So this is where we left off. Basically we're stopped in our tracks with a broken brake carrier. This time we're replacing it, so to do that we need to remove everything. So out comes the main bolt, the spindle, then we can pull the back wheel out with ease. Now with everything removed you can see the actual crack through the hub itself. Lucky it didn't break while someone was riding it. Let's expose the sprocket, so we need to remove the cover first. There's 3 bolts holding this one on. Sprocket cover off, retaining that out. The old chain is bent, stretched, and the sprocket is showing its age. These are always best to do as a set. Never just replace just the sprockets or just the chain. When the sprocket's been installed you will have to secure it down using the locking tab. Now it's time to work on the rear sprocket. This has got many years of grime on it by the looks of it. Heavy rust, ground in muck. It is not structural damage, but it does need sorting before anything goes back on again. It is proper filthy. Using a wire wheel on my grinder here, I've slowed it down to number 1 on the setting, and the wire wheel is a brass one, so it doesn't really mark up the actual surface. I just want a clean surface to work on. The wire wheel takes seconds to do rather than hours doing it by hand. After we've completed that, it's time to install the rear sprocket. Make sure you do the locking tabs after all the nuts are all tightened up. Everything that you've been seeing has been wire brushed, polished or been prepped off camera. It takes a lot of time, but it definitely is worth properly doing rather than bodging it back on rusty. It's now time to install the brand new chain. We start by dangling it over the front, then looping it over the rear sprocket, then just holding it securely over the rear sprocket. This is a split link type chain, so when you're reinstalling it you put the link straight through the middle of the 2 holes and put the links together as they are. It's important that you get the direction of this right. You can fail the MOT if it's wrong. I was going to replace all the bright work on that to all stainless steel ones, but they just absolutely look really shocking. So I sent everything back and polished all the metalwork by hand, and to be honest they're okay. They're not great, but they're a lot better than what they were. I'm not adjusting the chain up properly at the moment. I'm going to wait until it's all fully built up. It's time to install some of the plastic stuff now. So I'm reinstalling the air box. This comes with the air filter inside that's been changed, and it's cleaned up pretty well, just full of dust to start with. This is shortly followed by the battery tray with a brand new toolbox. The original one had been cracked straight through the middle of it, and I ordered a new one. It was only a few pound off of AliExpress, I think it was. As you can see, it's made a huge difference removing all this horrible rust over the frame and repainting it. Like I say, it's not done to the best standard as possible, but it's just to make it look a lot cleaner. So from the service we saved the old spark plug. Nothing wrong with it, so I'm going to put this in the toolbox as a spare just in case the new owner needs it at any point. It does also have the original factory toolkit. Let's work on the rear end now. I'm reinstalling the plastic mudguard and the original rear mudguard, which was horribly rusted. It took ages to polish this back up to what it was, but the end result was a lot better than what I had. I did have a stainless steel one to go on it. It had ripples all the way down it. I really was not happy with the condition of it. But on the plus side, using the original parts, you know they are going to fit correctly as they should. The majority of the hardware I've been putting back on there, like the nuts and bolts, are all Allen bolt. But this one here, I've decided to keep the original nuts and bolt. They're a bit rusty, but they do up and their heads are still okay. I'm just going to protect them with a bit of copper slip on the end of the threads. I feel like Fred Flintstone here, a little dab I do. I just had a quick look over my shoulder and I've got a huge box of parts where I stored everything. This box is getting progressively less and less. The more less of a box it is, the more of a bike it becomes. I'm now installing all the rubbers and the fittings for the actual fuel tank to sit back on. And like everything, everything's only getting put down lightly, just in case I have to move things about. So nothing's getting tightened down properly yet. I'm now going to go to the rear end and start fitting the tail light. I am going to be putting Allen bolts in this as well, stainless steel ones. Can't go too far wrong on them. The other ones were absolute riddled with rust and the heads weren't going to last any longer. When installing anything with wires on it, make sure you don't trap it underneath anything when you tighten it down. You don't want to keep burning through any fuses or trying to figure out why it keeps burning them. They've tried their best to conceal all of the wires so no one can see any. This one here runs through the centre of the actual mud guard itself. There's a couple of tabs that hold the wire in place and feeds through underneath the seat. And there it's got its own connector to wire back into it. It's as simple as ABC really. You can't get it wrong. To install the luggage rack on this, you do need to undo the top of the shock mounts on these so you can slide it around. So as for the indicators, the same rule applies here. Don't trap any wires. Feed it through and everything will be all good. They do trace through and it's got its own route for the actual indicators to go through. People tie themselves in knots trying to figure out how to do the wiring on these bikes, but it's really simple. You can't go wrong. Everything's got its own colour and everything's got its own plug. If you plug something into the wrong one, you're definitely doing something wrong, because it's not physically possible really. You might get a couple of the indicators the wrong way around, but it's really simple. This is the headlight. You can see it's a bit crusty and I'm going to give it a quick polish up. I'm using Solvo Auto Solve here, giving it a good old buff up. I'll give it a proper clean when it's on the bike properly, but for the bits I can't get to, I'm getting to now. Makes a huge difference. Everything all nice and shiny. Now let's feed the wiring through the headlight itself. Most of the wiring for this bike goes through the headlight. So if you've got a wiring issue, check your headlight first. See if you've got all the plugs all plugged in. And when you're plugging everything in, you can't go wrong. As I said, everything's got its own plug. In this case, every plug is all colour coded. Blue to blue, yellow to yellow, black to black, white to white, and so on. The indicators are a little bit more different. I've got to look up one wire. I weren't too sure. I think it's the horn switch. It's an orange one coming off the handlebar, and there's only one other wire to plug in, but I don't want to plug it in just in case. I will be checking it out once I've got more things together. If you're unsure, have a look at the wiring diagram. It's the best place to look. The indicator wiring uses bullet connectors. Just follow the wiring and plug it into the associated colour. Well, that's it for today. This is part 2 complete. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And as always, ride safe. Any questions, give me a comment.